Now, welcome to another Let's Talk Some Andor, where we will be discussing the 9th episode of Andor. Nobody's Listening is the name of it. So if you have not seen that episode yet and you don't want anything ruined, then it is a really good time to click away. Okay, so before we get to the comments, let's once again get your very brief review or thoughts on Andor.
I thought this episode once again continued the trend of being absolutely fantastic. The nuance, the subtle details, the really just getting such in-depth knowledge of these characters. I've been thriving. I just enjoyed this whole experience.
As soon as it ended, you said to me, "How could it be this good?" Like you were just kind of in awe of this. And I'm being absolutely serious too. I mean, you were kind of. I was impressed by it, and you were, I think, even more impressed by it because we don't really see this.
No action in this episode, but it's absolutely edge of the seat, enticing, exciting.
Yeah, it is so suspenseful. It is so just incredibly intriguing and well written that you don't care about no action. You live for these character interactions. You live to see what happens next to these characters. It is so good. It is some of the best television I've ever seen, and I that's not hyperbole. That is dead serious. This is one of the best shows I've ever seen, and it's crazy, which kind of goes along with our top-rated comment, I think.
Yep, it comes from Albert, 55. Imagine if Obi-Wan had Andor's writers and episode count.
Yes. Probably not going to go too deeply into this one. I think we might actually move this whole comment to a weekend ramble because we could probably dissect this quite a bit. Or at least I know I could ramble on about this forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, imagine indeed what Kenobi could have been like if it had this level of care put into it, thought, planning, all of it. But anyway, let's get to the next one.
Next comment comes from LSL. Andy Serkis was absolutely brilliant. Throughout the episode, you see the layers of his character, how he cares for the older guy, his desperate need to hold on to the idea that if he just plays along, he'll eventually get to go home, his self-doubt when he begins to suspect he's been wrong, and finally his acceptance and resolve when he sees that there's no way out unless they can fight their way out. Serkis was able to convey so much in such few moments. Casting decisions in the show have been stellar, selecting amazing talent to portray linchpin characters.
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy 200 some days till he goes home, which, relatively speaking, that's a short amount of time, right? I mean, compared to some of the other sentences, or what his sentence may initially have been. We don't know what that was, but he's so close, right? And so he just please, everything keep, every day, be another just average day. Everything goes well. Nobody, does something stupid. That's all he kind of, appears to care about in that, episode 8, the last week's episode. And then in this episode, we see that kind of start to peel away, kind of one layer at a time, mostly through Ulef. I think that's how you say his name, Ulef, who, the old guy whose health is failing. As his health fails, we get more and more of the real character of, Kino coming through.
You saw just how much he cares. I mean, we did a video yesterday that kind of goes into how Andy Serkis thinks of his character, sees his backstory, and I think the backstory he invented goes along perfectly with the character. If you'd like to know more about that, you can watch yesterday's video.
Yeah. No, I mean, a phenomenal performance from Serkis and everybody else. It's just, Kino is such a fascinating character. I want Kino a Star Wars story. I kind of joked about that. Let's make him Snoke. Why not? It was partially serious because if they didn't, I wouldn't be upset. I don't think they're ever going to do that, but no. Sure, why not? Because I'm fascinated by this kind of character that we randomly meet in a prison on, a terrible planet full of prisoners.
Next comment comes from Nate DeGreat. This is the bleakest Star Wars I've seen on screen, and I'm here for it. Everything in the prison and out felt dark and foreboding. Andy Serkis was amazing this episode. Love to see his transition as well. Can't wait for next week.
What I love is the context this gives to everything else. Because the original trilogy is fantastic, right? It's fantastic storytelling. But you never really kind of understand just how bad the Empire is. Like, they're bad. You get told they're bad. We can see some bad things, right? But this is letting you know just how horrible the galaxy is right now.
Right, we're seeing the darkness before the dawn.
Yeah, we are seeing exactly. We are seeing the worst of the worst right now. When they're at their peak, they have full control right now. A little rebellion, that spark of rebellion is starting to try to, burn and, do something at this point. And so that's what I love about the show. That, I kind of complained going into it. I'll be honest. I said, who cares? We know how this has to end. What can this show really do? It's Andor. not a character everybody loves, but just the context it gives to everything else. The meaning you now will get when you see that Death Star blowing up and when the rebels are victorious at Andor and, the struggles in the Empire Strikes Back. It adds so much more to that
When
because
when you see the lows, you really understand how important the highs are.
Exactly. You understand how important those battles really were now.
Moving on, the next comment is from Retz. This show has done something I thought was impossible. It made me care about Cassian Andor. My expectations for the series going in were pretty low, but I've been pleasantly surprised at how good it is. The Empire is actually menacing and kind of scary now. You did good with this one, Disney.
I think one of the most encouraging things is how many comments I see like this one, where people are like, I didn't think much going in. I didn't have much hope. I kind of had given up on Disney Star Wars. And I get that. Certainly I get that. I've had my criticisms of Disney Star Wars. And so it's nice to see that people can still appreciate when they give us something really good.
Right. And hopefully the company can read these numbers and read these comments in between the lines and go, Kenobi. Some people loved it. Some people absolutely hated it. Andor. They're just getting a lot of really good traffic overall. I feel like they need to just take note of things and go, what did we do right? Can we replicate... They don't have to replicate the entire tone and pieces, but find formulas and look at what people are saying are done well in the show. And work on making that the forefront of your projects.
That's my hope. I hope, like I said, there's a report that came out, whatever it was, that kind of the social media buzz is kind of building a little bit for Andor now, that it's kind of catching on. And I hope that really tells them, like, even if it's not, on par with some of the other great shows of Disney Plus, that they understand, like, the fact that it started low, it drew a crowd in, tells you that there's something special about this, where people were not willing to give this a chance, but now they're hearing about it, they're starting to come in, they're starting to enjoy it. And this is, again, not every show needs to be Andor. I say that in every time I discuss this show. Not every show needs to be like this, but every show should be given this level of care.
Next comment comes from John O'Sullivan. Gorst has a casual, joyful, almost childlike enthusiasm when talking about the torture device. It's absolutely chilling and brilliantly acted.
Yeah, that was total sociopath kind of he was so intrigued by these. It didn't matter to him that entire sentient species was wiped out. He was just intrigued by the noises they made as they died and how they could be used.
Right.
I mean, that is just chilling.
It shows you some sort of, a character. He's all in for the Empire, and he's in for this. These are technical advances that he probably wouldn't be allowed to make if the Republic was in charge.
I hope not, yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that he gets to do these terrible, terrible things fills him with such joy because he gets to do them and it's legal. It's like giving a serial killer a license.
Exactly. It's exactly what it kind of is. It's, you're giving this person who obviously has some, social issues, psychological issues, all kinds of issues. He gets, like, as the comment says, like childlike joy out of, like, torturing people. And you've given him free license to do what he wants to do most.
But it's weird because in another way to look at it, setting aside what his device is exactly, there's a character in the book Princess and the Scoundrel who is super excited, and he's actually upset because the Empire has fallen and he had contracts and stuff with them because he's like, I improved their tractor beam technology, and he's so proud of himself, but he's talking to Han, and those were the tractor beams that were improved that caught his ship. So it's details. So weird because he's so proud of his accomplishment, but it went on to do horrible things, and he just didn't care because he got science for science sake. Our next comment is from Mason Schaefer. A show with very little action, yet still has you on the edge of your seat, leaving you wanting more. It's so engaging.
Yeah, as soon as the episode's over, I want to watch the next one.
Right.
And yet I want to discuss the previous one at the same time.
And it's crazy because you don't need action to make something fantastic.
No, action could be good for action's sake. It could, pretty things on the screen can be entertaining, certainly, but action without substance behind it, without meaning to that action, without consequences.
I mean, my favorite parts in this series haven't been the Aldani heist, and the explosions and the running around and the crazy. Those aren't my favorite parts in this show right now. Sometimes it's just those simple dialogues between characters.
Sometimes it's just being in the ISB meeting room. Like, I've seen people joking online, like I would watch the ISB meeting room series. Make it like, one of those real life kind of shows, like.
It's crazy.
Who gets kicked off the ISB? You're fired kind of thing. You couldn't find the rebels, so you're fired, and that means you get fired off into space.
Hearing the way in which they describe themselves as, they're treating a disease. They're looking for symptoms and signs and treating illness. It's so intriguing. I would
so
watch them just go
yeah.
about their processes and seeing what amongst them works, what doesn't work. The double crosses where they're going against each other, trying to root out each other's weaknesses because they want the better position. It's amazing.
It's kind of funny to see because at first when there is no known organized rebellion or they're kind of ignoring it, that they are so petty and kind of out for themselves. And you're starting to kind of see that shift to a small degree where they now realize there is this common threat and now they have something to do. So the infighting seems to be lesser, yet you still know there's going to be backstabbing involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Old stock. Thank you, Tony Gilroy. Thank you, everyone involved in this project. Actors, technicians, musicians, everyone. Everything in this show is damn phenomenal. There is so much love and care put into this project. It reminds me of series such as Better Call Saul. The people behind it actually care. All right, that comment goes along with Ron Falk. Really hoping Tony Gilroy is given more opportunities to make Star Wars. The acting, dialogue, and cinematography are all on point, and everything is so incredibly tense despite the lack of action. Agreed. This is the best show on television.
It really is. And not just like the best Star Wars show, or not just good because it's finally like really good Star Wars. It's just a really good show.
Well, and like everyone's saying, everything is on point.
Everything. I
can't pick apart and say, well, the cinematography isn't good, or this actor is bad. Every actor seems to be phenomenal.
I enjoy nitpicking, and I can't nitpick this show.
The set
I can't
is
find
beautiful.
Anything.
No one left a Starbucks cup sitting on it, or anything like that.
Everybody in the ISB meeting room drinking their Starbucks, and they could get away with it in this show if there was some calf place that why not? I mean, please don't do that, but it would make sense if they were all drinking their specialty, even the name Starbucks and
Empire Bucks,
or yeah. I would get it, but
even the music, everything's on point.
I think we actually have a comment on that later because we haven't really talked about it much, but we will discuss it. But
I'm not allowed to talk to you about it too much because we have to save it.
I know we try. We have all these conversations. We should just record ourselves around the house because all we do is talk about. Well, that's not all we do. We do a lot of random stuff as well, but. We talk so many things, and there's many times we're like, we should have recorded that. That would have been a fun conversation just to throw up on the channel. But anyway, Tony Gilroy, let him do whatever he wants.
He's going to steal the crown from Filoni.
Kinda. I mean, they would make the dream team if they could come together and kind of, cobble together something of both styles.
I don't know. When Tony walked up to him and said, "Forget about Star Wars," he'd be like, "Wait, what?"
Kind of
take his hat off, be like, "Do I get to keep my hat?"
Yeah, that's all he cares about. But if you could trickle in some of the more traditional elements that Filoni goes for into this, I mean, you would probably have the absolute perfect Star Wars show. Not that it isn't pretty much perfect as is, but I think you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It does kind of, I will admit, it does kind of lack that more traditional Star Wars feel. But hey, it's still fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Next comment is from Anthony Miller. I have to comment on the fact that the opening music gets more epic each week. I was really pumped when this week's episode was starting. I know. Hands down for Nicholas Patel.
I like when the episode's about to start, like, shh, we got to listen to the opening theme, see how it sounds this week.
And then we try and guess, like, what does this mean for the episode? Because every week the opening is slightly different, supposedly kind of replicating the feel of the tone of the episode of the week.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this on our voice chat last night. Like,
a lot, actually.
Yeah, we talked about it's kind of strange because the music itself doesn't stand out on its own. I don't think people are cranking, Andor theme in their car or some of the other music. Well, you know what I mean? But it works so extremely well for the series. It really fits where, it's not John Williams where I can listen to John Williams. I've been listening to John Williams for 40-some years, right? I can put it on all the time around the house because that's how lame I am or when I'm reading. Love listening. I love putting my headphones on and listening to just, a Williams theme. But this, it's like, it's not that, but it's so good for what it is.
It's mainly good because of how it enhances the screenplay.
Yes.
Because in the background, it is doing its job to the fullest. It's building the tension. It's making you feel things, but feel things within the context of the show in a way that was very successful.
Yeah, it's not that kind of dramatic music that Williams makes. It's not that over the top, where you're very consciously aware of it a lot of the time. You're usually not too consciously aware of it until it, stopped. I mean, I loved how they built the tension in the one scene with Bix, where they're putting the headphones on her, and the music is building and building, and it stops, and you're very aware of it stopping.
And it really it hones in that terror in you, because you're like, Oh my God, am I about to hear it too?
Yeah, I know that's exactly what it was like. Like, are we going to hear this? But they didn't, which I personally think is better because I think it allows your imagination to just kind of not necessarily, I talked about it in my other review, but not necessarily hear these dying screams of children, but just the feeling of it is in your head, and it's brilliant.
Next comment is from Lum Vaughan. It was interesting to see how Cassian is slowly becoming the alpha male of his group of prisoners and beginning to take charge. The prisoners are starting to come together, and even Kino Loy is beginning to look at Andor as the leader. It was good to see the prisoners plotting and preparing for an escape, and that dynamic conflicting with their hope to be released after the number of shifts. Olaf's failing health and the other prisoners' concern for him was touching, especially coming from Cassian, who's been rather cold-hearted in much of the series. Cyril somehow reminds me of Norman Bates. He is a man on the edge. I fully expect him to murder his mother and stalk Deidre, whom he clearly developed some strange reverence for, until ISB guards kill him. You can sense his sanity wavering in and out, and dormant rage waiting to come out.
I think with this prison, we'll get to Cyril in a second, my Deidre Cyril thing. But no,
Deidre,
I think yes,
you call it.
Yes. Anyway, I think what this arc is currently doing with Andor is making us actually really start to like him a little bit more. I think in the first few arcs, there's not a lot of like really liking this guy.
No.
To be completely honest with you.
And then you meet his mom.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think this is slowly starting to turn him around a little bit here and make him a bit more of a likable character. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see, obviously, the prison break isn't going to go perfectly, and I think we're going to see him kind of, instead of being out for himself, I think he's going to try to help others.
Yeah, there's so much that's going to go wrong on this prison break. I can feel it. There's only so many pairs of boots you're going to be able to get your hands on. There's only so much room on a ship you're going to be able to find a way out on.
Yep.
This prison break, it's doomed.
Well, we do know only 2 people that will make it out. Andor and Melchi are going to make it out. Other than that,
I want Kino to make it.
Everybody wants Kino to make it, but I think he's the least likely to make it out of there.
But if they don't get him out of there, they might experiment on him and turn him into Snoke.
They might.
We need to get him out of there.
No, we need to keep him in there.
No, we need to get him out of there so he never turns into a Snoke.
Wait a minute. This could totally just retcon the sequels if they... No, I'm just kidding.
That's all in jest. I don't think he actually gets turned into Snoke.
No, I don't think he gets...
Just have to clarify that.
No, it's a fun theory that is never going to happen. But if it did, okay.
All right, on to Deidre. That's what you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Deidre?
I'd talk about Deidre. Maybe that'll be my weekend ramble, just talking about why Deidre works. No, I'm just kidding. I think that the comment nails it. He has this strange kind of reverence, fascination, infatuation, pick your word. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's like a sexual attraction necessarily. I think he just kind of sees her as, something that can help liberate him from his mother in a way.
Well, but look at the relationship with his mother. Everyone deep down loves their mother. The relationship he has with Mom, he gets home, what happens? She slaps him across the face and then hugs him.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's got going on with Deidre. He's almost like he's filling a weird void. Mother. Like, look at that. She abused me, but she still didn't turn me in. She must care.
Yeah, it's messed up. I mean,
it is. He doesn't recognize love. He doesn't recognize what his actions are doing in this situation.
I root for it in the context of the story, and in the real world, it's just messed up.
Next from Fifth Element. Multipass.
Jeez.
I have an inkling from the tone of this show that Deidre might be eventually thwarted by her own assistant, Hurt. I don't remember that's his name either offhand. Yeah. Whose laser focus and efficiency have been shown gradually through each episode. Yeah,
there's been times she's been almost surprised by him, and he's like, "Oh, you already did that," and she's like, "Oh, So I do wonder what kind of...
Well, the ISB, they don't trust anybody, even each other.
Yeah, well, I threw the question out there in the other review. I was kind of like, what eventually thwarts, Deidre, if anything? What is going to be what kind of stops her? Or does anything stop her and it just kind of ends with her, doing something else, and we'll get the Deidre Star Wars story? But I don't think that's going to happen. But I am curious to see what happens to this character in the long run.
All right, and looks like we are at the last comment. Sir Richard James's. My favorite episode so far. I've been a prisoner, and there's nothing more terrifying than the idea of never getting out or not knowing when.
Yeah, that's what we see with with Kino.
Yeah, well, and we even see it the moment Cassian enters the prison, they're all like on him. What's going on with our sentences? Why did all the numbers go up? What's going on?
They're linked
afraid.
to reality. They're
terrified.
The world outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kino, the transformation in Kino to like, 200 days, just grind it out, keep my head down, grind. Well, he doesn't keep his head down. He's bossing everybody around, but
he's keeping everyone safe.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that's kind of the
keeping him
mindset.
On task, on program.
If you're a prisoner in the real world, that's probably, I got a couple hundred days. I don't want people to mess with me. I just want to go home. So that's kind of the position he's in. And yet the end of the episode, I mean, that ending, I loved the ending, where Cassian's like, he's asked like 3-4 times, like how many guards per level? And finally Kino, never more than 12. Like that, I applaud that ending. That was just chills.
Right, because he realized
he's
not getting out. This is life. This is his only chance. The moment he gets released from this side, they're just put him in another area in the prison and say, hey, you got to keep going now. Yeah. They'll make up another Trump charge or something stupid, and he's never going to leave.
Nope, none of them get out of there unless they manage to get out themselves. Like I said, it's chilling. The ending was just one of those moments where it's like, I need to see this next episode. But alas, several days to go yet. And so that's all we got for you this time. So take to the comments below. Do tell us what you thought of this episode. What do you think is going to happen in the next episode, the Prison Break episode? And let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.